I believe we are ready to start. So, hello. Welcome to Saint Talks number 2. Today, we are joined by a couple special guests that you may or may not see on the screen already. But we are joined members of the great DGBA itself. But before we start, I feel obligated to say, please remember to sub to Parksy. That is essential. We will leave his YouTube in the description. Okay, but first of all, we have Haz and Jack. Say hello.
Hey, hello. Thanks for having me.
Hello, I'm Haz, and yes, like what Saint said, please subscribe to Pogsy.
Yes.
Join the Pogsy army, whatever his fans are called. I actually do not know this. I'm a fake fan.
Probably the Armaldos or something. That's probably
The Armadillo army.
Yep. Probably
Yes. So now that we have gotten the essentials done with, let us hop right through to the purpose of the video, which is to help the people understand what DGBA is all about. What is this DGBA you speak of? What is this DGBA? I do not know. I am so confused. So therefore, we have brought in 2 experts to help inform all of us on what the DGBA is. So without further ado, let us hop right into the questions. Number 1, how was the DGBA formed? So talk a little bit about like what the DGBA is and like how you guys got created and everything.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll take this one because Jack wasn't actually around when it started. But basically, it had more humble beginnings. It was I think this was back in the very start of like Gen 7, and I think it was around the time the GBA season was starting up for Gen 7. So at that point, I was like, I'd watched Draft League throughout a lot of Gen 6, but I didn't really know how you like got into Draft League or how you could like join one as such. But then like with like all the hype with like Gen 7 and GBA, I decided that I'd like to give one a shot. So I before the Draft League community was like super connected in Discord. There used to be a website called the GBA Discord, not the GBA website, and you could basically advertise your leagues on this website, and you could get like people to join and such. And DGBA was basically formed on that website, not by me, but by someone else called Chris Shabik. Funny enough, when I joined the server, they'd already had. I think they were planning to do a league with like 8 people, and they already had all 8 people. But when I asked, they said that if they could get like 12 people, that they'd do 12 people by the time the draft starts. So I nearly didn't actually get to play in DGBA, but luckily they managed to get 12 people, so that's kind of like how it pretty much formed. It's just like pretty just started out pretty small, and then it just grew from there.
I see. Okay, so this will kind of flow into the next question, and obviously has kind of answered it already with his response to the first question. But the second question is, how did you guys get involved in the DGBA? So obviously has explained. So I believe Mr. CRU Jack, take it away.
Yes, of course. So I got into Draft League around the same time around passing around 2027, but I did not get into the DGBA. I did not know its existence. So I started my own league around early 2017 because I joined a few different leagues and a lot of them died out, and I was kind of like, I want to complete a season of actual Draft League, so I figured I could start my own and try and actually play. So it was very small, only like 10 people in it, and around the time DGBA season 3 was starting, someone in that league, Cav, who also was, I think, been here since season 1, I believe, or 2. He was in that league, and he invited me and a couple other people to come play in DGBA season 3. And so I said, of course, I was looking for another league at the time, and he said it was a really good league full of good people, and I figured why not give it a shot alongside my other league. And so, yeah, I joined from there, and I don't know, the rest is kind of history. It's very sort of small, I believe 12 players, very different to how it is now, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, Okay, let us jump to the next question then. It's funny you say that the league has changed because the next question is, how has the DGBA changed over time? That's a very good
my.
one. Yes. Obviously, I remember actually back in like 2018 when I first got around, the DGBA was a lot different because there was no like chess, no agronauts, no anything like that. So it was a very
And it
different
was all the
server.
Bella forwards, if you ask me.
Yep.
They ruined the league.
No
IMO.
toxicity.
Yeah,
But
it was
anyways,
squeaky clean.
but on the real though, how has it changed? Obviously, it's a very different server now.
Uh, do you want me to start, or do you
Yeah,
want to go?
you can start. I'll add to it.
Okay, all right. It's kind of a tough question to ask without giving a long explanation, but pretty much I think the ideals of the league starting at the start was just for like a bunch of people just to have fun. It wasn't really competitive as such. It was just let's all just like play some mons, like have some fun, all that pretty much. And I think for the first few seasons, I think up to like probably season 5, maybe season 6, there was already like a very strong core of people within that league, and they all had like their own kind of. It was a lot more like, I guess, laid back and withdrawn as such. Like the chat wasn't super active, but people would like maybe say like, "How are you doing?" like every day or so, or just like generally chats. It was a lot more like laid back, and that was kind of like the attitude towards like the league as such. But I think the big turning point in terms of like how the league was looked at, I think, was when in season 5, when I think Zazo applied, which I was kind of taken back at first because I knew of him as being like a really, really good draft league player. So him playing here, I think it really showed me and a lot of other people like just the level on which you can get to in draft league specifically, and just like speaking to him about draft league, it kind of opened my eyes to like maybe taking the league into like a more competitive like nature as such. So after that season, I kind of wanted to shift the league into being a more perhaps competitive nature. Now I know a lot of leagues have kind of this isn't the only like time this has happened. I think a lot of leagues kind of have that where they're like, yeah, let's make it more competitive. But for us, it was kind of more of like a gradual thing over time. We didn't just say, oh, let's just make this ultra competitive. It kind of just grew, and we were able to keep constantly getting like good, like better and better players. And with that, like our community grew a lot more. We added a second division, and then a year later we added the third division. And from there, like our name like gradually got like bigger and bigger. And yeah, that's pretty much a simplified version of like how it is now, pretty much. So it wasn't just like an instant thing. It was just more of a thing. I think it took us like it took us 2 years until I think we became like a known league as such.
Yeah, and I think along with sort of just making it more competitive, I think we just realized with Zazo joining the league, we just felt as if we could get more traction with getting our name got out there a lot more when Zazo joined for sure. And along with making the league more competitive, we just wanted to branch out and get newer coaches in, which is the idea behind D2. And from there, it sort of built on to be more competitive and just having more people around.
Yeah, I think another big thing is that the early seasons relied on like a lot of the same people having that same like drive for the league. But when you've been playing for over time, like there are gonna be some people who just like over time they just like fall out of draft league or they have like other commitments and such. So I kind of realized that the first like generation of like DGBA players were like slowly like starting to like dwindle away. And so from there I tried to evolve it into getting like newer players who like care about the league, whilst also trying to improve the competition of it as such. And that wasn't an easy thing to do. There was like some backlash over. There were certain people who felt that um, I wasn't giving enough respect to like the older guard as such. Um, but I personally thought that it was the right decision for the long-term future of the league. And I think that's probably shown over time through the fact that it's whilst it is a lot different from what it was before. I think we're better off as it is now compared to before. Because I honestly, if we kept where we were at what we were doing before, I don't think the league would be around today.
For sure, especially because like people come and go on and off Discord for whatever, for all sorts of different reasons. Like if you didn't take that step towards changing the direction of the league, like who's to know like what DGBA would be today, like if it would even exist. Sure, yeah, that's really interesting. I think that like all leagues that were started like way back, a couple years ago have kind of that like same like concept, basically, where they all started as like very small, like I don't know if you guys necessarily agree, but they were all like very small like Discord communities that came together one way or another with either the older GBA website or like just like other like video games, and just like or like a lot of mini leagues, and then they joined together, and so it sounds to me like DGBA is no exception, where you guys like had a very small group of people that just kind of met, then slowly grew and expanded to where it is now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think where the community was when we started out, it was a lot less like together. Like I didn't really know what any other like Discord leagues really were besides like some big Wi-Fi leagues when I started out. So there wasn't really any like idea of let's make this league like as big as possible. It's just let's just have some fun. But then over time, as we became older, I think that the Discord community sort of like became a bit more closer together. So you were starting to become more aware of like these other like Discord draft leagues, and then you're suddenly thinking to yourself, "Hey, we could be like this league and that league and such." So I think that's kind of perhaps one of the reasons why we shifted, and why maybe a lot of other leagues have like tried to shift it towards being a bit more competitive.
Yeah, I was gonna say something else. I think at the start as well, a lot of it was just about the draft league and such was a lot about just making sure you find leagues where you get your games done and you actually get to play a season of the draft, and just usually people are just looking to play. But over time, there's a lot more leagues out there that do that. So it's about just evolving the community to give people a reason to stay here and adding, and just having other things that leagues don't have, and actually having a good community, a good general chat, a lot of people talk, and I think that's what we've done pretty well so far.
Yeah, I remember a period in like 2017 where I was just joining all these leagues, and they just kept dying after like a week or two because it was just full of like people who just didn't really know what they were doing until commissioning a league, and everything was just like so unorganized. So I think like a bigger priority was just to find a league which would actually like stay alive without dying.
Yeah.
But
Sure,
I think
sure.
these days people are like more interested in like not only just the competitive aspect, but also like getting into like a community which you could fit in as such.
Sure. And also, I think that as a whole, over time, right? Like obviously, people get better over time, which also adds to the competitive aspect of draft league, because like the people that have been here, on average, the people that have been here for a long time have a lot of experience, like actually playing the draft format. Obviously, got better over time, which help adds to the competitive aspect of your league. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think if you look at how what the draft league community was like, maybe in like during Gen 6, I think it was a lot less. There was a lot less quality, especially throughout like the mid-tier players. Like most people like didn't like really know what they were doing, but now I think these days like most people are competent just because of like everything's like been shown, right? Because in Gen 6, a lot of things were new. Like even stuff like resist berries was considered like heat and stuff. but now it's just considered like a normal part of draft league. You know?
For sure, for sure. Okay, let's move on to the next question because we spent quite a bit of time on that one. And the question is, what is it like running only, what is it like running a highly competitive league? And also, something unique about the DGBA for you guys that don't know is that DGBA is like all the public leagues servers out there. DGBA is like specifically well known for both having a really strong competition level and being public, which is fairly rare. Like usually you have very contrasting sides where the highly competitive leagues are highly exclusive, and your public leagues are more for newcomers. But with DGBA, you have a mix of highly competitive and public as well. So what's that experience like for you guys?
I guess I can start. I mean, it was only just a few weeks ago or maybe even at the around time we were doing applications, where I realized just sort of how many people were actually in our server. This is over like 500 now, and I was honestly kind of taken away at that. Comparing it to where it was started, it was very, very small, and just where it is now, it's actually pretty surprising to me. But in terms of the competition level, it's really impressive, to be honest, where we've sort of started from. I think the last few seasons as well, especially, we've come a pretty long way from like when we first introduced the divisions to now, where we have all 3 divisions, and it's a lot more sort of solidified in terms of the skill level. And yeah, based on just sort of how much interest people show in the league, like a lot of people are wanting to join and get in there and sort of prove their worth. And at first I sort of saw the league as sort of a place where you can sort of I guess develop your skills, get pretty good at draft league, and then once you feel competent, go move on to go play in something that's at higher level, like an 8-month tournament or something like DPL, like standards like that, right? It's sort of just seen as that. But now it's like a place where people actually sort of name the league and really try and go for an actual, I guess, chip or title win. And yeah, I mean, in terms of running it, it's a bit of pressure for sure with how many people are actually in the server. I don't really think about it too much though, because I don't know, it just doesn't really come to mind, to be honest. I can see this as sort of just another league, to be honest. But yeah, it's I don't know. I'm sort of just taken away. I don't really think about it much, because I sort of see it as I still kind of see it as sort of a smaller league, but it's just not that now. I got to sort of, I guess, get with the times here, to be honest. But yeah.
So basically, what I'm hearing is that Jack is stuck in. He's basically a boomer. He's not really up to date yet. He's still reading the newspapers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really know what email is. No, but I think that's one of the most unique things about DGBA. Just how it's always been open to the public. Because obviously there are other servers that have tried to very inclusive to new people. And then they've kind of suffered. They've kind of taken hits. Overall, as their reputation has taken a hit because of some of the people that have been added to the server, right? Like obviously there are some people in the Discord community that we consider to be toxic or AIDS, or just not good fits for the server. So how do you guys manage both being like a public very recognized server and keeping the AIDS out, keeping the toxicity out of your general chats?
I think the important part is, especially when you're running a public server, is to kind of set a tone for what the server's kind of like, in terms of the atmosphere and just what's generally talked about as such. Yeah, it is kind of weird. I've always liked the fact that we're a public server. I know most bigger leagues tend to be a private server, and there's definitely a lot of really good benefits to being a private server. But I think the main positives that we get from being a public server is that it's much easier to identify how certain people will interact with our community, because we can see it for ourselves. When you're in a private server, you kind of have to take gambles on certain people, because you don't know how they're gonna fit in your community. Whilst during the application process, one of the things we look at very carefully is how certain people are interacting within our community. like not just if they speak or not, whether they're actually like contributing like positively or not to the whole league experience. And yeah, I just think in terms of like maintaining it, I think it just like comes down to like constant communication between like the admins, the mods, constantly checking up to make sure like everything's okay, and if there are issues, like make sure you like double down on them. Well, I think one of the things that we've done quite recently is we've also updated our rules page, just to make sure it's like super clear like what's allowed and what isn't, because some of the rules were kind of vague beforehand, but now I think it's a lot clearer. So it's much easier to like follow.
For sure. Okay, moving on. To the next question. Is there something that the BGA does that you would recommend like new league owners to also do? Is there something unique that you guys do to that you would advise somebody just starting off starting off their first like league, or just like taking over for a league? Like, would you guys have any like recommendations or suggestions for them?
Oh boy. Trying to think back. I mean, I think the important thing to first start off with is making sure you have a few select people that you know are going to be sort of in it for the long run and really want to actually try and run a successful league. Having people sort of come and go that take part in decisions isn't the most ideal, because then you're going to be trying to look for sort of newer people that want to make decisions, but you don't fully maybe know them, get to know them that well. So yeah, for sure, trying to find some people that you can trust and just a few solid people that are going to be in it for the long run is really important. And then, of course, this is going to come over time. Just making sure you add players and finding the players that want to sort of add to the success of the league is very important. It's taken us a long time, even still now. Like, we're still trying to find new additions to the server and new people that maybe want to take it a step further and actually join sort of I guess a moderation or a higher role than just.
Just
I think Jack died.
yeah, Jack died, unfortunately. No, not scare you,
no.
Jack. Not him. Okay.
Do you need me to cover, or we gotta wait?
Yeah.
Jack revives.
Cover for Jack.
Okay.
Jack,
I do.
Jack will have to
okay.
reload.
Newcomers. Okay, I think. All right. I'm gonna be kind of brutally honest here. Not everyone can run a league. Like, I think you need to have like a certain kind of character and kind of a certain understanding of like how to run like a draft league before you like consider it. Oh, hold on.
Okay, well, we'll keep going.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So I wasn't sure. I saw the message. I wasn't sure if something was up.
No, you're fine.
I've lost my trail of thought now.
You were talking about how not everybody can be like a league.
Oh,
like,
yes. Well, maybe not that specifically, but if you don't have a lot of experience playing in a league, I think you should definitely try to start playing in some before you create your own. Not to say that you can't, but I think it just makes the experience a whole lot smoother. The next thing I'd say is you have to make sure you have like a solid core group of people within your community who are like completely like 100% loyal to your league. If you have too many people who just consider it a side league, it's probably either gonna die or it's never really gonna grow properly. Because if no one's manning your league, no one's really gonna talk about it. And if no one's gonna talk about it, the reputation of it isn't really gonna grow. It's just gonna be like, oh, this league, oh, it's just another side league, whatever. If it's just people just playing their games, and then there's like no talk in general, or it's just there's nothing that stands out about your league, then it's pretty much just gonna die over time. I think another thing is just to make sure like everything's completely organized. So organization includes like having like a sufficiently good mod team, like having like good people around you to help, like really helps, like takes the burden off you. And it also means you have people who can like question like your judgment, because you aren't always gonna make the correct decisions. And going on further from that point, you are gonna make mistakes when you're running a league. What's more important than not making mistakes is that when you do make a mistake, you identify that mistake and then you try to learn from it and like make sure it doesn't happen again in the future. Like, I think I've definitely made some mistakes over my time as a commissioner, but I think one of the reasons why DGBA ended up being a success whilst I was commissioning it is because I was easily able to identify those mistakes and act upon it to make sure that those mistakes didn't happen again. And then the league just continued to grow. Like, you're gonna have like some bad days sometimes. Maybe like someone drops, for example, there's like some drama, and it's like, and then there's like some like, it's like really tough to like for you personally, but you just gotta learn from it and just like try to grow as like a commissioner, and then make sure it doesn't happen again. But I definitely think there's definitely a lot of commitment that comes to running a league, but I think it's really, really satisfying when your league's able to like be successful. And being successful is like completely subjective. Like not every league has to be like LD or OOT or I guess DGBA, for example. Like, you have to know what your league's kind of for. So like, I think it's absolutely fine if your league's just there just for like people to have fun. Like, some people don't really care about like being like in a competitive league. They just want to like have fun, bring some goofy sets, chill out and like talk to the people within the community and like get to know them better. And if you have like a community like that, you'll probably be fine. You don't have, every league doesn't have to be like this competitive juggernaut. And when you're starting out, unless you're already a person who's kind of like well established in the community, your league probably isn't gonna like become like some top tier league unless you happen to be like very, very lucky. But if you want to create a competitive league, I think it's just more about identifying players, especially like having like a balance between maybe having one or two like players from like Hive and LD, and then having some players who are lesser known but could definitely like grow and improve to go to that level as such. Because I definitely don't think it's a bad thing to have like a couple players who like don't necessarily main your league, if they add some competition. But not every person should be that. You have to have like I said earlier, a core of players who like completely like main your league or just care about the league as such. So I think getting that balance right, if you're looking to create a more competitive league, is definitely good. So yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Cheers.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Jack is back. Jack is back.
I heard that entire thing. I guess my mic cut out. I don't know what happened. Okay.
My goodness.
Well, did you have anything else to say?
You kind of took everything. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
Jack.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. No, you said everything else. It's like pretty much. Yeah, it's fine.
Oh my goodness. CRU Jack Oko attacked his headset. Oh my goodness.
I will say, if anyone's like looking to start a league and wants some advice, just hit me up on Discord. I'm always happy to like give you some advice.
Yeah. Or you could join the DGBA server since it's public.
Oh yeah, all that. You know, I definitely recommend doing that. Absolutely.
Yeah. You've got to add to the DGBA squad.
For sure.
You gotta join the Rumble squad, which unfortunately I'm not part of. Neither is Jack. Well, I guess Jack is kind of part of the Rumble squad. Okay, let's move on to the next question then. Okay, the next question is that well, I feel like we've kind of gone over this briefly with your answers to other questions, but is there something about the DGBA that stands out from the rest of the draft community, like like other leagues, other communities, like, and if so, what are those differences?
Complex bands.
Complex band.
Well, okay.
Sogaleo.
I think now I'd say it's just I think we have a really good mix of just a different level of a good level of competitiveness, along with sort of just a good community all around. I think up there, definitely one of the leagues that has like just a really good mix of those. But yeah, I mean, you did say complex bands. I think that was the way I see the complex bands thing is sort of one of the things back a few seasons ago was we wanted to try and stand out as a league, and because before we weren't as big as we were, right? And so we had to try and find different ways to sort of stand out and give people a different reason to sort of join our league. And so I guess I'm not sure who thought the complex band, but maybe it's back in season 6 or
Yours
season
truly.
7. Oh, it was okay. So
Sogaleo.
back in season 6 and season 7, I think is when it started. It was just trying to find mons that typically aren't allowed and just sort of put a small restriction on them or whatever restriction may be to allow them to actually be played. And it did, I think, catch the interest of definitely a few people, and it sort of gives people another reason to join. It's not like full on like Ubers or like a standard league. It adds a couple different elements to it because it gets to a point where Gen 7 specifically was so sort of explored and it's so sort of almost overworked to the point where everything's sort of like already been explored and already done, and so you add it sort of. It's almost like new content in a way, I guess you could say, to Draft League, whereas if you're adding some stuff that typically isn't in the meta, and it's sort of restricted to the point where it actually isn't, as broken as such. So, yeah, I think that was a big part for the first couple seasons for sure.
Okay. Before we continue, I will say this now. Before, just for anyone out there that is considering it, do not unban Meloetta pirouettes. It is broken beyond belief. And if you want an example, why, Spawn back in Gen 7, 2-hit KO'd max defense Yuxi was returned with a choice band. It's broken. Don't allow it. That being said, allow Sogaleo. It's absolutely
Not
terrible.
even. The funny thing is the reason Sogaleo got suggested was because it did really bad in the OLT. So I can't remember, someone brought it up as a suggestion, and it eventually got allowed. So
It was so bad.
Saying I'm gonna blame the whole Sogaleo on your league. OLT sucks.
No, not Sogaleo.
I hate the.
I can't even remember what the rest of the complexes were. I think there was like.
There was like Lugia, I swear.
Yeah, I think there was like the two birds, right? Lugia and
yeah,
Horde.
it was like Zekrom Reshiram as well, I think.
What the? Okay, I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't fully remember it.
There's too many weird. There's a lot of weird ones. It's just the Sogaleo one's the funniest one, that's for sure.
Yeah, I guess the reason on the complex, the reason we did it initially was we were kind of like fairly into Gen 7, and like the meta was kind of a bit stale. So we thought just like freshen things up and just to make ourselves stand out a bit more, that we tried to like incorporate some like complex bands. I think the first one actually was in like season 2. We did tiers where it was like A, B, C, and then there was an S tier, but we kind of lacked a sufficient number of S tiers because of the size of the coaches and the fact that we were very bad at tiering back then. So I think that was the season we allowed like No Nasty Fault, Darkrai, and then Telepathy, Tapu Lele. And I guess from that it kind of like grew over time in like some of the later seasons to where it kind of like became kind of like our niche thing. And like I do know there were like 1 or 2 other leagues which like gave like complex bands like a shot as well. So it definitely was like an influence. It definitely helped to stand out. I don't know if I don't know if it'll ever come back as such, because I think we kind of like evolved past them, and like right now I think like the meta's like really fresh, like all the like the DLC things and such. So I don't really think there's like a need for us to go back to that right now, but it was definitely a nice thing to help us stand out at that time.
3 seasons time, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Speaking of
But
stand,
I think these days it's pretty much just community. Like I said, like when you have like all these like people who like main your league, like it's gonna spread just naturally, and that's kind of like what happened with us pretty much. It was like more of like a gradual thing rather than it happening straight away.
speaking of standing out, believe it or not, Arsenal is actually beating Liverpool right now.
Yes, I know. 2-1. I am so gassed.
What a day! What a day! It really is. It really is that day. If you think it really is that day,
We're gonna
too.
jinx it now. By the time this video ends, it's gonna be 2-3.
Oh dear! Oh dear! Oh dear! Well, so far it's a good time to be alive. Miracles are happening. And if you think that miracles are happening, please take this opportunity to sub to Parksy. Once again, I will say it once, I will say it twice, but please remember to sub to Parksy.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's just half time now, so my full attention goes back to this recording.
Yes. Okay. Time to move on to the next question, which is, has there been any challenges, major challenges that the DGBA has had to go through? And if so, how have you guys adapted to them?
My memory.
Do you want me to start on like the older ones?
I guess, yeah. Yeah, you can go for it.
All right. Okay, so I'd say season 1. You'd think there'd be no. It was all smooth sailing from the very start. Incorrect. See, the first, like I said earlier, I said not everyone could be a commissioner, and that's just kind of just from my experience of just like spectating many leagues and like being a part of like a lot of leagues, especially during the early days where I think there are a lot more incompetent commissioners. I think these days people run leagues a lot better than they used to. But the person who originally commissioned DGBA, Chris Epic, he was one of those commissioners who was kind of a bit, I don't know what you say, like power hungry as such. Like there's this whole meme of him like fixing the drafts, so he got first pick, and then he used his first pick on like Tapu Lele, not Tapu Lele, sorry, Tapu Fini, which first pick Tapu Fini is not it, but I think he got like 6-0 like twice, in the first like 2 games. So what he did was, without saying anything, he basically deleted the server and then deleted the doc. So at that point, like all of us were like, what do we do? Do we restart the season? Do we continue it? But a group of us like managed to like resurrect it and like create like our own server and just create a new doc and just continue off from where we were. And then pretty much the rest of the season was just completely like smooth sailing. But I think like that experience like made us like a lot more closer together. And I think it grew the seeds of like what the initial DGBA community was. Because we'd only known each other for like a couple of weeks. And I don't think anyone like knew each other from another league as such. But that experience pretty much like united us. So even though at the time it was like seen as a bad thing, it's just turned it into like some sort of like DGBA folklore thing, and it just made us like all the more together. And then in season 2, see after season 1, after experiencing how not to commission a league, we kind of decided to take it a bit more of a how do I want to say, a more communist system of basically everyone.
Oh my god.
Everyone.
I heard what you were trying to say there, Chief.
But there wasn't a commissioner. It was just like we all ran it together. But the problem with that was there was no real like direction for the league. Also, there wasn't one person saying, "Oh, make sure you get your game done. You do this, you do that, and such." So the league just kind of like fizzled out over time. Like there were certain people who just like weren't getting their games done, and then it was just like there was no one to like say, "Oh, why haven't you got your game done yet?" There's no like real like figureheads in the community. So yeah, pretty much the league kind of died in like season 2. And I think like I forget who it was. I think it was Jake Snake or someone basically said the goat. Yes, the goat. But yeah, I think he basically said he pretty much just tried to like revive the league, and then from there, I think I decided to like try taking more like leadership kind of role, because I kind of identified that there was like if we were gonna continue the way we were, things weren't gonna get better. So I decided just to like direct the league, just to make sure that it wasn't gonna die again. It was, I think, me and Cav pretty much started to run the league. We did all the tiering. He mostly did the recruitment, so he brought in like big figureheads like JP and like Jack, whilst I brought in the legendary Pogsy and Mike Man WBA, two DGBA legends.
Legends indeed.
Yeah, and then just over time, it just became everything just started becoming a lot more smooth. We never had like any real issues as such. We were kind of just happy being like a smaller league, and there was definitely like a real like sense of togetherness. Even though the chat wasn't like super active, it wasn't really as active as it is like nowadays. People were definitely like really close together.
Well, we did have a problem with the chat with, I think it was around season 6 when we introduced like the second division, where we had the channel for D1 discussion and D2 discussion, and it sort of took away from our general chat, and so we had to try and figure out like, okay, well, we want everyone to be talking in general, and it sort of felt like each, I guess, division was its own separate league, and people weren't really talking to each other as much, and general was just very dead, and so we made the sort of decision to eliminate both those and just having everyone talk in general, which I think was for the better, of course. Some people may wonder like, oh, why isn't there sort of just general discussion chats for each division? But I think it can sort of lead to sort of players being sort of disconnected with each other, and each division sort of not, fully getting to know the other players in the division. And it's just sort of kind of doesn't like, it sort of devalues the community, in my opinion. And I think it's just for the better that we sort of have in general where just everyone talks in for every division for sure. I think that was sort of a big problem when we sort of introduced the second division. That was one of the main things that came up, I think.
I could honestly talk 45 minutes on the downfall that was Poison Point season 1, which was our second division. I think Saint brought up in his like last video, which if you haven't checked out, make sure you do after this video.
Let's.
But yeah, he brought up the fact that like at one point like every commissioner pretty much decides, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna expand, and that's kind of like what we were like. I think we were gonna expand to like having 20 coaches in like one division, but we had a lot of applicants that we liked, so we decided to open up a second division. Like it wasn't even like something that we were gonna like, yes, we're gonna do a second division. We did it like after doing the apps. We were like, yeah, we can do it. We're fine. So I think a lot of the issues, the first issue was the recruitment stage. I mean, generally beforehand, we didn't really do apps. We more just basically, pretty much just came off recommendations, pretty much. Just like if like a friend of the league or like someone who's playing in the league has like a friend, ask them, see if they're interested, and then we like bring them on board. But when we were doing the application process, I think that was kind of a similar mindset. So we pretty much just picked people who like other people knew, and kind of the issue with that was that it kind of ended up being like a side league to like a lot of other people. There was also like a lot of like divisions within the league, which like Jack brought up. It wasn't just in the chat. Like I remember there was pretty much everyone in Speed Boost hated Ches because he was like really toxic. in the first season of Poison Point, which even he admits himself. And yeah, by the end of it, like I remember I was talking to a whole bunch of people, and everyone was pretty much like, "Yeah, this second division thing has kind of failed. We should probably revert back to the first division. This isn't." And there was things like, "This isn't the DGBA that I really like know." And we were kind of in a very awkward position. And I guess also just to bring some context, the way the draft league community was at that point, divisions weren't really that common. Like there were a couple of leagues which had like minors leagues, but there weren't. It wasn't really like what you see today, where every league has like 2 to 3 divisions. Some leagues have like 5 divisions or whatever. Divisions were still kind of like a newer thing, so people didn't really know like how to like interpret them. So a lot of people within the league kind of felt like they were like 2 separate leagues rather than being 2 divisions within the same league. So the community was just very fractured. But I pretty much just felt that the problem wasn't within the fact that we had like divisions as such. It was the fact how we incorporated them. Like Jack said, one of the first things we did was we removed the divisional chats, and we made it so that most of the talk was happening in general, which was like pretty dead during season 6. As well as that, we promoted a lot of people who were in that division into our top division, and we also brought people like Ches, Manly Soap, JJ Gals, and a few other people into the council who were in that second division. So we had like more of a representative of like what issues and what went wrong, and it also like breathed life into the league. And I think season 7 was like a huge turning point in terms of the league. Like before then, no one used the VC chats. Then in season 7, it was the season where people just started using VC first to just playing games with each other, and it just became like a cultural thing. Like you join VC every day, just see how people are doing, just talk about whatever, really. And then I think another thing was that we realized that our recruitment was kind of dodgy, just from the fact that we were like more focusing on networking rather than picking up like good talent for the league. So we completely shifted our method of like recruitment and focused more on like getting like maybe people who we didn't really know super well, but like had potential to like fit in the community or could like go on to be like a really good player. And I think that's kind of shown over time. I actually read somewhere like there was a discussion about like what leagues look for, and there were a couple people who said like networking, and for me I don't think DGBA really focuses on like reputation as such. I think we like more focus on just not just trying to bring like newer people into our community and growing it as such, because then you're constantly bringing in people who are like going to be invested in your league, and I think that just helps grow it further. So yeah, and I definitely think the mistakes that we made from like Poison Points were fixed in Swarm, because I think when we expanded the Swarm, we didn't really have any of those problems, and like pretty much almost every single one of those ads were like really good ads, and yeah.
Powerful. That was a long speech.
Poggers. What is
I need to sip a whole lot of water after that.
That was like a TED talk, honestly.
That was an inspirational speech, Mr. Haas.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and then we've got one last question, and then this episode is done. But the question is, obviously, there's not everybody knows this, but you weren't always the commissioner, Jack. Haz was the former commissioner, and you guys switched, and then you guys kind of swapped over. So how did that go about? Like, what happened? Like, why did that happen?
Well,
some say that Ches is the person that runs the DGBA, and they are 100% correct. It's all Chesben.
Oh my goodness, Chesben, the savior, the goat.
well, the transition happened like last year, I believe, before season 10
Yeah.
officially started, and has let me know beforehand, or he asked me beforehand a couple months before season 10 was planning to start about it, and letting me know, and I of course accepted. And I mean, the transition overall, I mean, it was pretty seamless, to be honest. Like, most people were sort of okay with it. For me personally, it was obviously a very big step up. Of course, beforehand, I was obviously an admin, and I mean, I did some work, but I felt like being a commissioner now, I had to do a lot more work than I did, for sure. I felt like I'd step up quite a bit if I wanted to sort of try and, I guess, live up to what almost has created. It's not like I'm sucking Haz's dick here, but has put in a lot of work across, you know, since I started here in season 3, and he was one of, you know, he's a really, really good commissioner overall, because he put in so much work for the league and did more than just actually run the league, but try to create just a bigger community overall. So I felt like I need to try and sort of learn from that and try and do similar things. And it's sort of just, it's been very similar. You know, Haz is still very active. I'm still very active. We have a lot of great people that put in a lot of work. And even though I am still a commissioner, like, I still take a lot of, you know, ideas and thoughts from Haz, other admins, other moderators. I still listen to them quite a bit. And it's not just sort of like whatever I say goes. I want to make sure everyone's happy, make sure that everyone's, you know, cool with the decisions that do end up going forward. So yeah, the transition overall, like, it was pretty much fine, to be honest. It's been, I've made some mistakes. Obviously, when I first started, it was sort of just maybe nervousness or just inexperience. But over time, I'm definitely still trying to improve and get better. I think I have, for sure. And yeah, I think, you know, I try and do a lot more work behind the scenes. I still want to try and be more active in the server actually, and get to talk with more people. And just get to know everyone get to know all the players in the league, for sure. But that's gonna come with time, and yeah, I don't have much else there to say, to be honest. Haz, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'd been running the league, I think, around 2 years. When I approached Shaq, I approached him like, I think early on the season, in season 9 actually. I basically said, look, like, I have to like focus more on like university, and the thing is with the way I run DGBA is I ran it really, really hands on. And that's kind of because there weren't like too many other people who I could like necessarily rely on to like other work when I was starting out. It was pretty much me and Cav. That was kind of it. So I had to kind of do a lot of work, and that kind of set the tone, like how I ran things. I ran it like really, really hands on. I got involved like any way that I possibly could. But over time, that became like really, really stressful, especially because I'm now in like university, and I have to like focus on like my degree a lot more. And there were times where I was focusing more on running a Pokemon Draft League server than I was on my actual education, which isn't necessarily a healthy thing. So I still wanted to be like involved in the league, but I felt like, for the sake of myself, and probably for the sake of the league in the long term, it was probably better that I could hand it over to someone. And I felt like Jack was like a really sensible like person to pass it on to, just because I feel like he has like a really good like he's really good at like making decisions, and I think he's also very, very good at making like delegating things to certain people, which is one of the weaknesses I think I had as a commissioner. Was I don't think the mod team was super strong until like very late on. But I think Jack's like transitioned the DGBA to where like the work's a lot more spread out. And I feel like he doesn't get enough credit for like how much work he does off the scenes. Like, he's not super active on Discord, but he was never active on Discord, to be honest. You got a message from him in general once a month. So, I don't know what people were expecting. But the work he does like behind the scenes, like whenever like there's an issue, like he'll always have like something to say. And I think that just goes like really, really like uncredited to like people who are in council. And yeah, I definitely think he's definitely done a good job in like transitioning the league into like Gen 8 and like to where it is right now. So yeah, I definitely think like changing ownership is a very, very big process. I'm sure you know that as well, Saints.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think we did it successfully.
For sure. And I mean, you guys are like way better. Like you guys are still going smoothly. I mean, the league is probably bigger than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Like it's a great league. Like there's not that much there's not that much you can say about it. It's just like it's just really fantastic league. Like, so like you guys deserve like a lot of applaud for like how you guys have taken like such a small small and like I guess relatively unknown server, and made it into like what it is now.
For sure.
Yeah, it definitely took like a lot of work, maybe a bit of luck, but ultimately I think it's not just me and Jack. It's just the people on this server, the people who talk every day, the people who maybe just aren't in the server anymore, but who were like a big part of DGBA maybe like a couple of seasons ago. Like all their efforts combined has made DGBA into what it is today, and I can be more grateful to everyone who's been involved in the community.
For sure. Okay, so now we're gonna start wrapping it up. But before we call it a day on this video, is there anything that you guys would like to say for the fans out there? Is there anything?
Subscribe to Parksy.
Sub to Proxy.
Yeah,
that is very respectable.
Yeah, I'll just say if you aren't like if you aren't in the server or you just haven't spoken much in DGBA, say hi. I'm always happy to like speak to anyone. If you want help getting into the community, I just say like just try to get stuck in, and it definitely being in the community goes a long way. I know we don't have, because we only have 3 divisions. It's kind of competitive in terms of like who gets in, so it's pretty tricky to get the spots. But I will say we definitely do enjoy having like not just the members of our league itself, but like members of like the outside community just interacting with us, and I think that's a big part of like what makes our community great, and it's why I like being a public server as such. So yeah, if you haven't gotten involved in that community, be sure to say hi.
Sure, for sure. Okay, on that note, call it a day. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I don't know why I didn't say it last time, but I guess people subscribed anyways. But yes, subscribe to this channel. Massive shout out to both of you guys, Has, Jack, and of course the entirety of DGBA. What a great community. And I will try and remember to include Parksy's YouTube in the description, even though Parksy is not actually in this video. And I see that DGBA also has a YouTube account.
Yeah, we do have a YouTube account.
As well. Go listen to their podcast as well. They're very entertaining. They have the great
we did oh sorry, go on.
Have the great Agoat and Mr. Chespin. Very interesting group of people. Interesting group of people.
Yeah, interesting is one way of putting it.
Toxic.
No, there is no toxicity in the DGBA. I do not know what you're talking about. None whatsoever.
Not whatsoever. But on a note, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Goodbye.
Later.